Yeah, so thank you very much to you, and thank you to Mace for hosting today, and to BuildForce for the work you've done over many years now. Is it 11 years you've been going? You've really sort of corralled the industry and put lots of people into employment, and good employment, and well-paid employment, as we've heard. It's extremely positive. Look, the Veterans Affairs space in the country at the moment is going through quite an accelerated transition, which is, obviously something that I've been working on for a long time and feel pretty positive about. I think if you look across all the programs that we're delivering that you hear about in the media, around mental health, around homelessness, and all the rest of it, the single area where we do the most work, right, and we have the most impact is on employment. So if you look at veterans when they come out, and obviously the vast majority resettle, have absolutely no problems whatsoever, okay, but some do who come out and are challenged, all right, the single biggest factor that improves their life chances of them and their children and their families is having a job. And so for me, the whole strategy about making this the best country in the world to be a veteran, which is what this Prime Minister's challenge, right, is focused around employment. And when we're doing that, we're looking at kind of key sectors and who's doing particularly well in this area, and basically looking for best practice to help companies up and down the country employ people. I've seen it done really well in some sectors. So if you remember back in 2006 when Stuart Tootle set up the After program at Barclays, okay, and then that's morphed across into other financial institutions. We've seen it in the automotive industry with what's going on up there, and it's fantastic to see all the work you've done in this sector, because coming out of the military, going into construction is a really sort of fertile ground for many people who come out. And what we want to do is, the whole point of the Office of Veterans Affairs is kind of equalising that experience across the country. So I know you do fantastic outreach work, but there still remains this challenge that if you know someone at BuildForce, if you know the right people, if you live in London, your opportunities for getting into this are going to be different from what they are in places like Plymouth and Manchester and so on. And so one of the key things we're trying to do is kind of level that up and equalise that so that people can access it irrespective of their background, irrespective of their rank when they left or their social circle or whatever it may be. And by doing that, that's the only way we'll really start to raise the floor in terms of what the veteran experience is like in this country. I guess my sort of two core messages, I suppose, would be one to the veterans in the room and the other to the employers. Firstly, on the employers' side of things, my big kind of bugbear in this space, right, is how we make the transition in this country from seeing veterans as kind of like employing veterans as kind of the right thing to do, right? So the moral case for looking after veterans, and transferring it into the kind of intellectual understanding of what it's like to be a veteran, and not seeing them as, as a sort of charity endeavour to employ these people. And we all have a responsibility to make sure that actually employers understand it is the best business decision you can make, right? Irrespective of what good you think you're doing for a charity or whatever it may be, the best business decision you can make is to employ a veteran in terms of the raw product you're getting and the years of experience they've had in the military, and transferring that into your workforce. And as a business, your best employers, a lot of them do turn out to be veterans. So for me, it's about going from that kind of charity sympathetic view of veterans to, obviously, the big project has been to be more empathetic and to understand what it's like to be a veteran, but also to change the perception of it, that actually these guys and girls are the best people you can get in your organisation, and on a business sense alone, it's the best thing you can do for your company. And the second thing was really to veterans who are coming out. And I know many of you will be leaving, after 20, 22 years, whatever it is. And it is a difficult transition, and you've got to be kind of prepared for that. You can't be naive going into it. But the truth is now, right, the opportunities that are available to you, whether it's in employment, whether you become unstuck, whether things don't go your way, the opportunities for being a veteran now are better than they've ever been in the history of this country. And so you should not be nervous about it at all. And you should look forward to it, to a new challenge with real anticipation, because there's so many fantastic careers out there. There's so many people who want to employ you, who specifically want your skill set, right? So if you properly dial into the program, you commit to it, you work hard, you can go on and have a fantastic life, really boosted by your time in the military. And I really want you to take that away today and really throw yourself into all of these different opportunities from the employers that are here. So, look, thank you very much for hosting today. Thanks very much for having me along. Thank you to all the employers who are sort of leaning into this. But like I said, I genuinely feel it's the best business decision you can make to employ a veteran, and I hope that it'll be a really positive experience for everyone today.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mark. If there are, we'll do a quick 5 to 10 minute Q&A. So if there are any questions, raise your hands. I'll kick off with a couple. Mark, it was interesting to hear or read up on your career overview, actually, before we met today. Can I ask, what was the one role that you've had in your career that's contributed most to your knowledge?
Well, I would say my career's been defined by projects, quite frankly. So I've kind of abused it too, really. The London 2012 was a fantastic experience because it was both the worst project I've ever worked on for the first 12 months, and then for the next 4.5 years, it was the best project. And it was really about how do you actually bring the teams together and be really clear about what you're going to do. I mean, clearly, being part of Mace over a 27-year journey has been a fantastic role that I've had and had privilege. I started off as a project manager. I soon became an assistant project manager. So I obviously impressed really well. And then I ended up looking after a business unit, which actually some people in this room at Heathrow, BAA, which was a game changer for me. And you know, I go to work every day to work myself out of a job, quite frankly. And in the last couple of years, I've been involved with the Construction Leadership Council, and change is the biggest thing that I've seen through the industry. And I think, you know, to answer your question, and it kind of relates back to London 2012, is how do you turn something in quite a difficult circumstances to deliver an outstanding contribution to society, an outstanding contribution to a business. And that's not easy, but it's also really rewarding.
So being project-based, really.
Yeah, I'm a project-based person. I have to try and get out of that sometimes as well.
Is he successful at staying off sites?
No.
No, I don't think so. So to pick up on a point that you both raised, our service leavers know their strengths. They've got world-class skills. They're the best at what they do. And they're in this turmoil at the moment as they transition. Some of them have progressed through a 22-year career, or your equivalent in the armed forces. Are there roles at that level as well? Do we as an industry, are we recognising well enough just how skilled these individuals are?
Yeah, certainly do. I mean, I think most of us will recognise that in a business world, it's about leadership. And you know, if you're in a managerial organisation, and most of the people in this room from peer group companies are in leadership roles. So it's about how do you identify the problem, recognise that there are various options. How do you get people to work together really well, and then how do you then come up with those solutions to deliver an outcome? And I think that's what the training you get, and that's why I think is actually the transition is probably a lot easier in our world than it is the technical stuff. We're always going to have technical people around you, so that's not so much of an issue to me. The thing is how do you have, you know, the gravitas, the certainty, the belief, which is really important. So, I was interested in what the Minister said in terms of, Jonny said in terms of, we don't do this for a charity. We do this for business reasons. So, if it didn't even cross my mind, to be perfectly honest. So, I don't think we ever look at it like this is for good commercial business reasons. And like we all go through turmoil in our lives when you change companies or you think you're changing careers. You know, I've had 3 or 4 change of careers that didn't necessarily know it's happening. and I perhaps didn't plan as well as I could. So I think the opportunity that's being offered here is that chance to change your career with a bit of a framework around it, but actually, play to your strengths. I always say play to your strengths. You never go out and play to your weaknesses. You go and play to your strengths. So if I ever played to my weaknesses, I'd still be Neil Shanley's assistant project manager.
And just a final question. For those hoping to leave the room today and head straight into a Mace interview over the next week, what advice would you as the chief exec give to navigate their way through an interview? So you heard it here. Mark says.
I think you need to be a bit patient, because what we're always trying to find is where best fits. And that applies to anything. And as I kind of use myself, and we are better now than we were 27 years ago. Thank goodness. It is a bit messy when you go into an organisation. It's never a clear path that you're going to go straight into this role and it's going to work. And I would always say is give it a bit of time to bed down, because every experience I've had, it takes at least a year to understand how it's going to work. And so it's also making sure you understand the parameters that you want going in, being flexible, being prepared to push back a little bit, give it a little bit of time, and then once you get embedded, you really will thrive. And I think that applies to any organisation. If you think it's just going to work, it doesn't work anywhere.
Okay. Minister, you're 6 months into this role again. So what's your biggest challenge at the moment?
Well, I think getting sacked for a third time would not be ideal. I think. Oh, look, we got a lot of challenges. I think clearly this is a very different environment to be working in under this Prime Minister, and I'm really hopeful. I think when you look at some of the programmes we've managed to put together, Op Courage, 19,000 referrals in its first year. There's a massive unmet need out there. There is the sort of military veteran space is very dynamic at the moment. The charities, they're giving, and giving to charities from the public has gone right through the floor. Okay, but demand continues to be where it is. If anything, it's increasing. We still have 12 to 15,000 people a year leaving the military. We have to meet that demand. I've always, been very clear that the government has a strong responsibility in that space, and I'm beginning to see that enacted now through various schemes that are being rolled out. I mean, we just, 45 million capital building project for veterans' homelessness is kind of unheard of, right? So it is changing what it means to be a veteran in this country, but it's a big job of work.
And best career advice you've ever been given?
Don't go into politics.
Anything else?
Best career advice I've ever been given? I don't know. Just work hard and be yourself. Yeah, okay. Don't try and be something you're not.
So Bernie and I were having a conversation with a veteran recently, and they shared their story about being lonely. So having been 2 years out the armed forces, he was working just as a local builder, and he just felt overwhelmingly lonely. For anybody in the room that's worried about leaving their unit, their corps, their team, what are the benefits of coming over into the civvy space? How much more is your life enriched?
Oh, look, it's completely changed what it was like. I got into this because in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, it was pretty poor. You come over now, and there's no need to have unaddressed mental health challenges. There's no need to be lonely. There's no need to feel like you have poor employment prospects or anything like that. There's been some amazing. Today I'm going to a funeral of a guy called Bryn Parry, right, who set up Help for Heroes. There have been actors in this space who've completely transformed since Afghanistan and Iraq what it means to be a veteran. So you don't need to have any of those feelings. What you've got to do, I think, is you've got to be humble. And what I mean by that is that it's not really, it's generally at the kind of senior officer level, really, where they come out and think the world owes them a living and they're going to go into some high-powered job and all the rest of it. It doesn't work like that. Civilian life is totally different to the military. The military is a really privileged environment, but generally with fit, motivated people who want to be there, and real life is not like that at all. So the skill is not like where you go to. The skill is not like, it's not that bad, but I didn't realise how that came across. I'm sorry. But it is different,
No, well,
okay? It is different.
So that's fine.
It is different, okay? It's different to being in the military. And, you know, the skill is making that transition, right? It's not like where you end up. It's that ability to transfer your skills. There's no point coming out and moaning about civvies doing this or civvies doing that, right? Because this is the real world. The military's not the real world. This is the real world, right? And you've got to get up to speed with it. So if you kind of apply all that good stuff from the military, right, about, you know, discipline, turning up, all the right stuff, and really throwing yourself into a project, really committing to it, really engaging with people, leading people properly. You know, you've all been taught how to lead people properly. You've all done leadership courses, right? Properly use that stuff, you're going to fly, and there's nothing to worry about. When it comes to loneliness, you know, we are trying to sort out the regimental associations. I recognise that, you know, there are real problems in that space, but I would just say to you that, you know, there are structures and things in place. Yes, you have to find them. You know, I'm going to try and completely redesign things like Veterans Gateway so it's much easier to find them, but they are there, okay, if you look for them, and you can have a really positive future in front of you.
Thank you. And final question to you, Mark. If we could draft you into the Armed Forces for one day, what role would you most like to do? What do you think you'd be good at?
Oh, what would be good at? No, I can't do that.
Trumpet player.
No. I'll leave that to others. I'll be a PT instructor.
Nice. Nice.
Have you run a marathon? Have you run a marathon yet?
No, I don't do marathon. I swim, but that's a different story.
Yeah. Tell everyone what to do.
And last question to you, Minister. For
Yeah.
all the employers in the room, what one thing could we do better? What would you like to see as a benefit of the event today?
I think just empathy, right? So less sympathy and more empathy. What is it like to come out of the military? What challenges do you face? You know, particularly if you've got people who are really committed to their military careers and they inevitably leave resettlement too late. Just empathy, what is it like coming out, and less of the kind of sympathy, oh, aren't you damaged, and all the rest of it, because it's just not true. You know, I think veterans in this country are an incredibly important part of our society, and getting them into employment is my number one challenge.